Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us for June 2021's Stampin' Class by Mail. I'm Gina Wieselman of MySweetPaper.com, and I can't wait for you to make your cards using the Pansy Petals suite by Stampin' Up. I've teamed up with Brenda Cardinal, another Stampin' Up demonstrator, to offer these monthly classes by mail. This month, Brenda designed the cards and she'll show you how to put them together, and next month it'll be my turn. Make sure to watch to the end of this video to see a sneak peek of my card designs for next month, as well as some bonus opportunities for signing up. Have fun making your cards, and here's Brenda.
Thanks, Gina. Hi everyone, I'm Brenda Cardinal of stampintulip.stampinup.net, and I'm excited to show you your 3 card designs featuring the Pansy Petals suite of products by Stampin' Up. This new suite can be found in the brand new Stampin' Up 2021-2022 annual catalog. This suite also features the brand new 2021-2023 in colors. From the Pansy Petals suite, we'll be using the Pansy Patch stamp set and the Pansy dies. Also from the suite, we'll be using the Pansy Petals Designer Series paper and Bumblebee trinkets. And we'll pair all of this with a new in-color 3/8 inch open weave ribbon. We'll be using some elements that have been punched, die cut, and embossed for you if you ordered a class kit by mail from either Gina or myself. These elements include things from the treasured tags Pick-a-Punch, the layering circles, and the scallop contour dies, and the painted texture 3D embossing folder. Before we get started, you'll want to get your supplies ready, including the evening evergreen and polished pink ink pads, mini glue dots, Stampin' Dimensionals, Stampin' Seal, multi-purpose liquid glue, a bone folder, an assortment of clear blocks, and paper snips. Please reach out to Gina or I if you need any supplies, would like to chat about becoming a Stampin' Up demonstrator, or hosting a Stampin' Up event. Let's get started with our first card design. Our first card is the Hello Pansy card. If you ordered a Stampin' Class by Mail kit from either Gina or me, all your parts and pieces, including those that have been embossed, die cut, or punched, were shipped directly to your home. If not, here are the things you'll need to complete the cards as designed. Pause the video here to prep everything and then come back when you're ready. We'll start by doing our stamping, and we'll be using our brand new Evening Evergreen stamp pad. This is one of the new in colors. And the stamping for this card is very simple. All we need to do is stamp our greeting on the Pale Papaya tag, also one of the new in colors. And this has been punched for you using the treasured tag punch. I should say the treasured tag Pick-a-Punch. The Pick-a-Punch punches are really fun because they have 2 different styles, and then they have slots for 3 different size widths of cardstock. So essentially 6 punches in one. So we'll stamp that right in the center. Looks like I didn't get that inked quite enough on the A. There we go. And that's all our stamping. So we'll set that aside, and then we'll bring in our thick Whisper White card base, and we'll fold that in half. And then to get a nice crease, we'll run our bone folder over that. And we'll set that aside as well. And then we'll start assembling. So with Stampin' Seal, we'll add our Pretty Designer Series paper to our Evening Evergreen layer. Center that up. Then we'll add that to our Pale Papaya layer. Again, we'll center that. And then we'll add this to our card base front. Oops, got a little adhesive there. And then we'll add our stamped tag to our Evening Evergreen tag. And notice the wider your cardstock when you punch it, the more detail we get here on the punched image. Oh, center that up a little bit better. Okay, there we go. And then with Stampin' Dimensionals, we'll add that to our card front. I think I'll use 3. And we'll pull off those papers. Now, placement for your greeting can really go anywhere. And what I decided I liked is that I want to make sure the pansy that had both pale papaya and I believe this is clips of coral was not covered up by the greeting. So in this case, I think I will put it back towards the top, but I have played with this with some other cards and moving it around, that doesn't matter. But you know what? I don't know that I like all this evening evergreen there, so I think I'll pull this one down just a little bit and then I expose another pansy at the top there. Okay, there we go. And then with mini glue dots, we'll add our pre-tied bow. One of the favorite things I think about our classes when we use bows, we usually pre-tie them for you, so you're all set. And you could also stamp your envelope with a coordinating pansy if you wanted to. Our next card is a polished pink pansy card. Here are the parts and pieces you'll need for this card. We'll start again by doing our stamping, and we'll be using another new in-colored polished pink. We'll start by stamping our label. This label was die cut using the scalloped contour dies. They're brand new. They're part of a bundle, but I just love these new dies. They're just so adorable. Okay, and we'll set that aside. Next, we'll stamp our inside greeting on our basic white cardstock. And to make sure I place my greeting properly, I'm just going to lay my designer series paper along the right edge so I know where to place my greeting. There we go. And we'll set that aside for right now. Next, we'll stamp this part of the pansy. So it was die cut using the pansy dies in basic white cardstock. And then we'll stamp it with a fill-in image. Now, there are 2 fill-in images for our pansy. We're going to use the one that has the most solid image. And we could use our Stamparatus to make sure we get the stamped image lined up perfectly with our die cut piece, but because it's a photopolymer stamp, I think we'll be okay. So I'm going to ink that up, and I'm bringing in a piece of scratch paper. I'm going to stamp it off once, and then I'm going to stamp it right on my die cut image. Now don't worry if it's not exactly perfect, because it's just one layer of many that we'll use to create that pansy. We're going to stamp a little detail on our polished pink part of our pansy. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but besides die cutting that shape, it also put an embossed image in it as well. So there's a lot of detail with this particular set of dies. Okay, there we go. And that's all of our stamping. So next, we'll bring in our Evening Evergreen card base. We'll fold that over and get that ready. And now we'll start assembling our card. We'll start out by adding our pretty designer series paper to our basic white cardstock that will go on the inside of our card. Now, keep in mind this pansy paper is directional, so you want to make sure you put it on your card stock the right way. And if possible, I like to cut my designer series paper just slightly longer than what is needed, so I make sure that I completely cover, in this case, the basic white cardstock, and I don't have any extra white showing. So I'll trim the excess off with my paper snips, and then I'll add this to the inside of my card. And we'll center that up. Next, I'll add my polished pink strip along the front flap. And I'll be really careful about how I put my adhesive along this edge. And keep it nice and tight to the cut edge. And I'm going to start out by laying my card base on top of the polished pink piece. And I want about 1/4 of an inch showing. And then before I put pressure on it, I'm going to flip my card around here and close it. And I want to make sure that I don't see any of this basic white piece on the inside. And once I'm satisfied with how it looks, then I'll put some pressure on it. And again, I'll trim the excess off. Okay, now let's start assembling our pansy. We'll start by adding the detailed basic white piece to our polished pink piece. And to put this together, I'm going to use my multi-purpose liquid glue. I'm going to be careful, you don't want too much glue on there, otherwise it'll just squish out when you put the two pieces together. I do like the multi-purpose liquid glue for this purpose because you can slide your image around a little bit to make sure you get it lined up just the way you want. So this actually layers right on top of that polished pink piece exactly. So like I said, with the liquid glue, excuse me, you can slide it around so that it covers and lines up exactly. Okay, so there we go. Then we'll add this to our stamped pansy, and we're just going to put a little bit of glue on the bottom of our pansy, and we're going to line this up like so. I want to make sure the stamped pansy doesn't show below the die cut part of the pansy. And you know what? I can see just a little bit right there, so I'm going to slide it just a little bit. There we go. And then we'll add our pale papaya center for our pansy. Trying to get that point so it points right in between the V there. Okay, there we go. And next we'll assemble our leaves. Now all these pansy pieces were die cut with the pansy dies. And so leaves you can cut in two parts too. The base for the leaves, or the most solid image for the leaves, are also embossed. So there's a little extra detail there for you. I'm going to put all my glue on here at one time and see, I have to act kind of quickly. Okay, there's our leaves. And now we'll add our label to the front of our card, and we'll do that using dimensionals. So my suggestion here is to put a dimensional on the back side of the label on this side, and then, so let's do that. Oops. And then I would suggest putting 2 dimensionals actually on your card flap so that you make sure that you don't actually seal your card closed, right? So you want to place this about 1 inch from the bottom of your card base. Then we'll use dimensionals to add your pansy. And I'm going to put them kind of low because the pansy hangs off the tag, or I should say hangs off the label. And put that kind of at a little angle. Then I'll use Stampin' Seal to attach my leaves. And when placing these, I don't want this leaf on the left to hang too far off the card, right? Because it has to fit in the envelope, but I'm trying to cover up the basic white label close to the pansy. And kind of similarly here as well. So place them however you like. And lastly, we'll add our bumblebee trinket with a glue dot. And you can place this kind of wherever, I thought about maybe putting it up here. I kind of liked it here, but wherever you think looks nice. And there we go. And again, if you wanted to pull out your pansy stamps, you could stamp a coordinating envelope. Our next card is our Fun Fold Pansy card. It opens like this and then like this. Here are the parts and pieces you'll need for this card. If you ordered a Stampin' Class by Mail kit from either Gina or me, you'll get supplies to make a fresh freesia version, a polished pink version, and also a pale papaya version. All right, before we start stamping and assembling your cards, I want to show you how to prep your card base. The first thing you'll do is you'll emboss your fresh freesia piece with your painted texture 3D embossing folder. Then you'll attach this to your card base. Now in your kit, you got 2 pieces of basic white cardstock. One is 8.5 or 8.5 by 5.5, and it's scored at 4 1/4. And that is your card base. The other one is 8 by 5 1/4, and it's scored at 4 2. So we're gonna set this one aside because this is our inside piece that moves. So we'll attach this to the front of our card base, and adhesive placement is important here because when we die cut the circle, we're going to be using the 2 parts that you die cut. We'll be using the 2 parts of the circle. And so I don't want adhesive in the center because I need to pull them apart and use them independently when I make my card. Okay, so that you attach those 2 like that. And then you bring in your die cutting machine. And we're going to take the second largest die from the layering circles dies, and we're going to place it so that we have equal borders on the left and right side and the top. It's about 3/4 of an inch. And then we'll lay our top plate on, and then we'll send it through the embossing machine. Now, I'm not going to go all the way through. I'm just going to go through the machine until I hear that click, and then I'm going to back it back out. And the reason I'm going to back it back out is so that it gets rolled on twice because it's going through both layers of cardstock. So there we go. And then we'll use these 2 pieces. Oh, looks like we have a little adhesive there, but I'll take that off before we get started. So again, if you ordered a Stampin' Class by Mail kit from either Gina or me, this part has already been done for you, but I wanted to show you how to do it in case you need to do it on your own. All right, so now let's start our stamping. And we're going to go back to our Evening Evergreen stamp pad. And we're going to stamp the word thank you on our circle that we die cut here. And notice the placement here. It's to the left and pretty low on your circle. You almost go lower than what you think you should stamp it because we want to have plenty of space for our pansy. All right, there we go. And for now, that's all the stamping we're going to do. So I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to bring in our card base again. So we'll take our card base and we'll fold that in half, and we'll score it with our bone folder. I should say crease it with our bone folder. Set that aside for a minute, and then we'll bring in our other basic white piece. Now, what you want to do is you want to lay it on your work surface so that the largest section is on the left, and then the other half of the next section has a score line through it. So we'll start by folding from the right to the left, and we'll crease that with our bone folder. And then we're going to take the top flap and we're going to fold it back on itself to the right. And then we'll score it or crease it along that score line. Okay? So now we're going to attach this to our card base. And I want to make sure that I put the adhesive in the right spot, because let's look at this again. We don't want to put any adhesive on the side that's been, or the one half of this basic white piece that has the score line through it. We want to put the adhesive on the larger section that doesn't have the score line. So for easier placement of the adhesive, I'm going to fold that fold that closed again. I'm going to flip it over, and then I'm going to add my adhesive. Okay, and then I'm going to open my card base, and I'm going to place this inside my card, and I'm centering it so I have equal borders. Okay, all right. Next, we're going to add our stamped greeting. So from here, what we're going to do is we're going to fold this flap back over to the right, and we're going to close the card, and then we're going to add the adhesive just to this section. Okay, not here, because we'll actually close our card then. So, or we'll seal it closed, I should say. And then we'll drop this back in, this stamped circle, drop it back in, and then we'll put some pressure on it. So then we open the card, there we go. Okay. Now we'll add our fresh freesia circle that we die cut that's been embossed. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to leave the card all the way open like this. We're going to close our card front, and then we're going to put some adhesive on our fresh freesia circle here. And then we're going to drop this back through the circle that was die cut in the cover, put a little pressure on there, and there you go. Now, if you want, now's the time to add your inside greeting. And the reason we left that to last is so that we placed it in the right spot. I'll bring back my Evening Evergreen ink pad, and I'll ink up my greeting, and I'll just place this underneath my fresh freesia circle. Okay. And now we'll add our panties. I just want to show you where the panties come from. It's kind of why we decided to include 3 different colors of cards in this class. So one sheet of the Pansy Petals Designer Series paper is all panties. And they really have 4 different color combinations. There's your fresh freesia, your polished pink, your pale papaya. This is bumblebee. And what's really cool about the dies is that they're designed to cut the panties out. Okay. Similarly, another piece of the Designer Series paper is all leaves. And we have the dies to cut these leaves out as well. So that's where all those come from. So we'll use our Stampin' Seal to attach our pansy and our leaves. So in the kit, you got a large and a small pansy, and then you got 3 leaves. So we'll add the large pansy first. And I'm going to place it where I think it's going to look best, but I'm not going to put any pressure on it yet. And then I'm going to pick 2 of the leaves. I kind of liked the darkest and the lightest one on the larger pansy and the medium colored one, if you will, on the smaller pansy, but totally up to you, whichever you'd like to do. All right, so before I put pressure on this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close my card up and see if I like how that looks. It's easier to make some adjustments now, and I think that looks pretty good. So then I'll put some pressure on it. Okay, I'll put my card back up. I'll add my smaller pansy. on my fresh freesia circle, and I'll add the leaf. Okay, and just two last things to do. We're gonna add our bumblebee trinket. I just love those, they're just adorable. And then your pre-tied bow in the coordinating color with your background here. This 3/8 open weave ribbon comes in all 5 of the new in colors. So pretty. So our little bumblebee there, and then we'll add our bow. We're just going to place this kind of off to the side, off to the right side and towards the bottom. There we go. And if you wanted, again, you could stamp your envelope. I have a few more samples to show you using the Pansy Petals suite to help inspire you. Before I show you my samples that I made for the class, I have a confession to make. So when I saw this new suite of products in the brand new Stampin' Up annual catalog, I fell in love with it immediately. I love the colors, the flowers are so pretty. I knew we wanted to use it for one of our Stampin' classes by mail. And part of that is because it also features all of our new in colors. But when I sat down to start designing the cards for the class, I have to admit that I got a little intimidated by all the different parts and pieces, both in the stamp set and the dies, and how you put them together to make pansies. So I decided to make myself some cheat sheets, and I wanted to share them with you. So if we just use the stamp set, here are the different stamps that you use to create the larger pansy. Again, the different stamps to create the smaller pansy, the little bud, our leaves, and our connecting pieces. And what I love about this, we used to call it just 2-step, but in this case it's like a 5-step stamping process, is that you can make endless number of color combinations just based on which colors you use for each part of the pansy. So really pretty. Okay, so then if I just use the dies, here are the dies that you use to make a larger pansy. So notice the size. So when we stamp it, we have a little bit smaller pansy, and when we die cut it, we end up with a big, bold pansy, okay? And this one is made up with lots of different dies. So the back 2 petals are here with the detail, and then our detail for this section of the pansy, and then the other 2, okay? So that's just die cutting, but we can combine those 2. We did that with our polished pink card by doing some stamping and die cutting, okay? And in this case, I used a little sponge dauber to add a little crushed curry ink to my pansy, or to this layer of the pansy, to actually give a little bit more dimension. So again, endless possibilities. And I'm sure I didn't cover all of the possibilities, but at least this helps you get started. So our first card is kind of a sweet little card. We did just mostly stamping and a little die cutting. And I wanted to show you where this designer series paper came from. So the colors for the paper was really the inspiration for my pansy. So the paper comes from this pack of paper, the Pattern Party Designer Series paper pack. This paper is actually something that you can earn. So if you have a party, personal or with friends, you earn hostess dollars. We call them Stampin' Rewards. So you can spend some of those rewards to get this designer series paper. What I love about the paper is on one side it's colored, right? Many colors. And on the back side, it's actually black and white. And black and white is fun because, of course, it can stand by itself, but you can color with your blends. You can use your blending brushes to add some color. So you get 48 sheets for each of the 12 double-sided designs. Fantastic bargain there. Our next sample is one of the make and takes I used for my team meeting that we have once a month. And again, kind of that hybrid where we're doing some stamping and then some die cutting. And this is our new tailor-made tags dies. I love those dies. That's a brand new product as well. This is our second card that we made for our team gathering. And I have another confession to make. When I was trying to decide what I wanted to do for my make and takes for my team, as I was looking at the catalog here, I noticed this card and I really liked it. And so I thought I have to duplicate that. I think it's really pretty. So not only is this a beautiful catalog, it has all kinds of fun products, but it's actually very inspirational. Lots of ideas within the catalog that you can just duplicate exactly. This next card is kind of like the card, the polished pink card, same kind of fun fold. And this next card I got in a swap, and I thought it was so pretty. It's kind of monochromatic, and it takes advantage of some of the papers that you wouldn't normally think about maybe putting together. And this card was designed by Nancy Forsberg. She actually put some of our new in-color jewels on there as well. So cool. This next card is a tailor-made tags dies again, and really the designer series paper drove the color combinations here, but also is kind of the star of the show. Two last cards I want to show you. When I was designing the class, I wasn't sure which embossing folder to use. And so I made two different versions, and Gina and I emailed back and forth, and we decided we liked the painted texture 3D embossing folder, but this is the brick. And I thought it was kind of pretty as well, but the card's just the same. Just has the bricks. And then if you remember, when I showed you the designer series paper that we die cut the pansies for our third card, I mentioned that we had the bumblebee version as well. So I thought it would be fun to make a bumblebee version of this same card, and I used our little bumblebee gingham checked ribbon on there, but pretty as well. Whenever I see beautiful designer series paper, I always think, wouldn't that make a beautiful gift bag? So I had to try it. I made a cute little tag to go with it. And this little gift bag is quite easy to make. Let me just show you my pattern that I used. So we cut our designer series paper 12 by 8.5, and then we have our different score lines. This little blackout piece means that this is what you cut out, and then you also cut up here, here, and here, score on all the fold lines. This is actually, this section folds down, so you see the inside or the back side of the designer series paper to add a little accent there. So there you go. I hope all these ideas inspire you to create more beautiful things with your Panty Patch bundle. Thanks again for joining us for our Stampin' class by mail. And now here's Gina.
Thanks for showing us how to make those beautiful cards, Brenda. Make sure to follow the link in the email that shared this video with you to access the special Pinterest page that Brenda and I curated to show you even more ways to use your Pansy Petals supplies. Next month, it's my turn to design and share the cards with you, and I'm excited to share a sneak peek. We'll be making 3 card designs using the Tidings of Christmas suite of Stampin' Up products from the 2021-2022 annual catalog. If you order a class by mail kit, you'll get everything cut to size and shipped right to you to make 3 each of the 3 designs for a total of 9 cards. One design features a fun fold, and we also have some accents of gold foil sheets and vellum. All you need to do is add the stamp set, inks, and adhesives. We'll be using Cherry Cobbler and Evening Evergreen ink pads. From the suite, we'll be using the Tidings and Trimmings stamp set, the Christmas Tidings dies, Tidings of Christmas designer series paper, and the Evening Evergreen chevron weave ribbon. We'll also have some accents using the Simply Elegant trim and soft succulent open weave ribbon from the annual catalog. If you order a class by mail kit from either Brenda or me, you'll also receive some elements that have been pre-die cut and punched for you. These include things from Hippo and Friends dies and Banners Pick-a-Punch. You'll want to order some supply items to complete these cards as shown. You'll need Stampin' Seal, Stampin' Dimensionals, Mini Stampin' Dimensionals, Mini Glue Dots, a bone folder, paper snips, an assortment of clear blocks, and a Stamparatus if you have one. The registration deadline to guarantee your kit supplies is July 5th. We also have a bonus deadline of June 27th, 2021. If you sign up by that date, you'll get a bonus of 2 completed cards with envelopes with your class kit. We also have a bonus opportunity if you find new friends to sign up for the class by mail. Check the email you received from either Brenda or me with more details. And if you're not already on one of our email lists, feel free to reach out so we can add you. That way we can provide you with all the information you need about our classes by mail and in-person classes, as well as details about hosting an event or becoming a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Please let us know if you have any feedback on our class by mail, and until next month, happy stamping!